Okay, Beckendorf, we have a treat for you today. Ms. Cross, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, that might be a little bit of a stretch, being a treat. Some of you, about a third of you, I guess, all of you who came from Griffin Elementary School know me. I'm the librarian at Griffin Elementary. My name is Mitzi Cross, and I hear that we're going to have some book writing going on in 7th grade. So I want to say hi to all my Griffin kids. I wish I could see you in person. So apparently you've got some questions, and I will try to answer them best I can. We'll see what happens.
Okay, first question. Ms. Cross, what makes a good children's book?
Well, I think one of the main things is to keep it simple. If you start getting too detail-oriented, then it's going to notch up the level to a more grown-up book. Even picture books can get too detailed. So something simple, characters that you can picture in your mind. So a really good description of characters, a setting where you feel like you could actually be there. If it's more of if the older kids, the younger ones don't need a lot of description of character, because sometimes your picture will tell you that. But yes, and if you think back to the books that were important to you, that you wanted to read over and over when you were a kid, think of the elements in those that you liked. Sometimes it was a repeated phrase over and over, something simple and obvious, but kids like something that is a problem. You got to see it. You got to see it real clearly. And for it to get exciting, and not everyone's going to have a problem, but most good stories have some sort of conflict. And funny, if you can make it funny, any kid's going to like something funny. That's the way it is. On occasion, if it's the right kind of kid, scary. Kids like scary as well. There's so many choices.
Okay, great. Next question. What types of children's books do you choose for the Griffin Library, and why?
Well, you know, it is hard sometimes for me to choose books because I want to choose my favorite kinds of books. I like fiction, and so I am really drawn to that. But we have so many great nonfiction readers that are so interested maybe in plants or in history or cooking. There's all sorts of nonfiction books out there. So what I have to do to pick good books for the library is, as I look at reviews, and there are certain companies that put out book reviews all the time, and I look through them, and there's library journals. So also, like if someone tells me about a book, hey, Miss Cross, have you read blah, 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 it'd be so cool for the library. Yeah. So I pull that book up with my book company, and this is true for all Katy schools. So if you get a book checked out from a Katy library, you're going to know that when the librarian ordered it, what we do is we go online. First, I have to make sure it's the right grade level. Like a lot of kids here want to read the Hunger Games, and they have the books, but it says young adults, so I'm not allowed to order it for my school. When I look online with the book company, I scroll down to where they put book reviews. There have to be at least 2 positive book reviews from some book company before I can order it. So that's what I do.
Okay. Now this is an important one for the students at Beckendorf, because some of them are going to be writing for 1st and 2nd graders. Others will be writing for 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th graders. So how would you say books written for the younger grades, how are those different from those written for the older grades?
I would say the main thing, you still want simple storylines that are easy to follow for the most part. Any grade, you want to be able to see clearly what's happening. You can get more detailed, though, with the older kids, and vocabulary. When some companies level their books for grade levels, it is based many times on how hard the words are. And the length of it, younger kids will lose interest if there are too many pages in a book. But the thing is, there are a lot of books out there that appeal out loud, reading out loud, to lots of age levels. But if they're going to be reading them themselves, and you want them to understand a lot of it, then a lot of it's vocabulary, keeping the words that they would understand.
Okay, one more, let's see. What are the main components or the parts of a children's book?
Well, obviously setting. You've learned that since you were little. Of course, if it's a really little kid's book, you're not going to go into lots of detail about the setting. but you do need to let the reader know where the story's happening. But you really do, I mean, the best books usually have some sort of issue, some sort of problem that's got to be solved. So you've got to go in with, the introduction, the characters are going to be introduced in some way, and then they're going to have a problem, and the problem's going to build, and it's going to get maybe worse, and then they start to solve it, and then that goes down to the end where you're feeling happy about the way the book ended. I know not all books end happily, but for little kids, they really like to resolve the problem.
Okay. Now, we were hoping to get a demonstration, maybe the best way to do a read aloud, like how to hold the book, speed of reading, stuff like that.
Okay, that's a good question, actually, because I've seen people read books aloud and they just aren't really quite sure how to handle that. And there are two basic ways of going about this. I like, and I have a reason for it. I'm going to tell you my reason for it. I like to read a book like this and then show the picture after I read the lines. And the reason why is because some will be distracted by the pictures and won't listen to what you're saying. But it seems like every year before I get the students used to that, the pre-K kids in kindergarten say, we can't see the pictures, we can't see the pictures. So for a lot of them, when we start out the year, I start out holding the book like this, but sometimes it's just harder to read. First of all, don't hold the book in front of you like this. If they can't see your mouth, then it's a problem. So don't cover up your mouth, don't cover up your face like that. So make sure you have it to where you can see it and not tilted too much that way, just tilted towards the person you're reading it to. And loudly, slowly, and even if you think you're overdoing it on the pronouncing, when you got to enunciate the words real carefully, that's still. But something kids love is to use voices. If you have characters in your story, just make up a voice. Like, I have no idea how Piggy and Elephant talk. So in my mind, I just made it up. Have you ever read Elephant Piggy? These may be too new for you guys. They're hysterical. I mean, you would like reading them. I know you're in 7th grade. They're so funny. Mo Willems did it. He's the guy that did the pigeon books. You know pigeon books. I bet a lot of you do. So anyway, so let me put these on. So when I did this book, when I first started reading it, I gave the elephant a voice kind of like a Texan, and I don't know why. Elephant's not Texan at all, but I kind of make him talk like this. I don't know why. And then the pig's a little English piggy. No idea why. So I'm like, Piggy! Is something on my head? Yes. There's a bird on your head. There's a bird on my head? Don't too fast. You got to give him time to take the story in. Ah! Yeah. And you give him a little look like crazy people. Is there a bird on my head now? No. Now there are 2 birds on your head. And look at the look. Elephant. He's like, What are 2 birds doing on my head? They are in love. And see how his face is like this? So you can, if your character's making, the picture's making a face, you just like mimic it. That's all. You just got to be crazy. And it's okay if people think you're weird. I don't care if people think I'm weird. Now, don't you really want to know why there are 2 birds on the head? You do. And after we finish this interview, I'm going to go back and read it, and because I forgot. You want to know. There you go. There's a bird on your head. Okay, that's my next question.
Okay, that was great. What are some elements of writing style that elementary age students seem to enjoy?
It seems like elementary kids seem to enjoy the narrative style. They like a story. Facts are great when you're really wanting to get some information across, but they're not really fun for read-alouds generally. And so if I'm ever going to create something for an audience of readers, listeners, either way, if they're reading aloud, they generally like a story. It's a narrative. You can do some descriptive writing within the story, and you can add some facts in there. But I think for the most part, for kids' books, I think a narrative style is the best. My opinion, you could disagree.
And finally, do you have any other suggestions for our Beckendorf students as they write their children's books?
I would say when I read books, I can tell that the author really loves whatever subject they're writing about. So find something that is interesting to you. Don't try to maybe copy what someone else is doing or another person's style. Find something you think, maybe a personal experience that has happened with you, and make a funny story. You can make up the characters that go with it, but it's got to be something that you care about for it to come across to the reader as interesting. Because, like, for instance, if I was going to write about football, it would be the worst book in the history of all books, because I really don't know anything about it. I mean, like, is it a goal? Is it a, did they just, I barely know that it's shaped like this. I just know which teams I like. That's about it. So I wouldn't be a very good writer about sports. But if you want me to write about little kids or about babies, I love babies, or funny, silly animals, that's another thing. If you, kids seem to like sometimes where you make an animal the character and personify something. You could even make a pencil talk. A talking pencil? That's funny. A talking bag of Skittles? Why not? I'm just saying. So just come up with something that's interesting to you, and then your audience will also probably find it interesting as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Cross.
Yeah, probably see you at Grizzfest.